In the quiet spaces between tradition and technology, the spirits have not gone silent. They linger behind elevator doors, inside apartment walls, beneath flickering hallway lights. They are the echoes of forgotten rituals, the grief that never passed on, the betrayal that never faded. This is a channel where ancient curses haunt modern lives, where phone calls come from the dead, where school hallways remember every footstep, and where something, or someone, always rides the elevator alone. You've entered Ghosts of Asia. True fear isn't loud. It waits, and it watches. Let us show you what it sees.
They arrived just before the rain, the kind of thin soul drizzle that slides down glass like teardrops too exhausted to fall fast. Hannah stood beside the taxi, staring up at the monolithic gray slab that would now be their home. Mireille Heights Tower, 21 floors, all concrete and silence. The glass windows glinted like watching eyes under the clouds. Her husband, Min Jae, was already fussing with the luggage, trying to pull the last suitcase from the trunk without scratching the new Samsonite exterior. She didn't move to help. She was still looking up. It didn't feel welcoming. It felt waiting. "Come on," Min Jae said cheerfully, waving her forward. "We finally got a place of our own. Seoul skyline, 8th floor, discounted rent. We're practically blessed." Blessed. That word felt off here. They entered the building's lobby, where the air was strangely still. The security desk sat under a wall-mounted CCTV screen displaying all 21 floors, though only a few showed any motion. A middle-aged guard greeted them without rising, his eyes barely lifting from the CCTV feed. "New tenants?" Min Jae nodded. "Room 808. The guard paused, a beat too long. Then he reached into a drawer, pulling out a glossy key card and something else, a small velvet pouch tied shut with red thread. "This goes on your doorknob. Don't take it off. It's for protection." Hannah tilted her head. "Protection from what?" "Just tradition," the guard muttered, pushing it toward them without meeting her eyes. "Older residents insisted we keep it up. Don't throw it away. Some things are better left undisturbed." Min Jae raised an eyebrow, but accepted both items. As they walked toward the elevator, Hannah whispered, "That was weird." Min Jae chuckled. "It's just superstition. You know how older buildings are. They all have stories." She looked down at the pouch in her hands. It was warm, slightly damp, like it had been held for too long. The elevator creaked as it rose. Inside, the silence was too deep. No soft jazz, no mechanical hum, just the occasional clunk behind the wall as it passed each floor. 4, 5, 6, 7. The doors opened without sound. Their hallway was narrow, the wallpaper a faded beige with odd discolored patches, as if something had been scrubbed off again and again, but never completely gone. Their door, 808, was at the far end, beside the emergency exit. A draft kissed Hannah's neck. When Min Jae capped the keycard, the door clicked. It swung open on well-oiled hinges to reveal a pristine interior, freshly painted walls, warm wooden floors, and floor-to-ceiling windows with a stunning view of the Han River curving through the city like a sleeping serpent. "It's beautiful," Hannah whispered, stepping inside. The apartment was modest in size, one bedroom, a kitchen alcove, and a compact bathroom, but it felt airy, modern, too clean, perhaps, as if no one had truly lived here. "Want to do the honors?" Min-jae said, holding up the velvet pouch. Hana hesitated, then she shrugged and hung it on the doorknob inside. The red thread frayed slightly as it brushed the metal. By nightfall, the rain had thickened into a steady curtain. The windows blurred with streaks of water. The sounds of the city faded, muffled by glass and concrete. They sat on the floor, eating takeout straight from containers. No furniture yet, just them, cross-legged on a blanket, trying to pretend this was an adventure. "It feels like we're camping," Min-jae grinned. Hana smiled faintly, but her eyes kept drifting toward the front door. She didn't know why, but something about it, the way the red-threaded pouch hung there, slightly swaying when no wind blew, made her uneasy. "It's probably just the newness," she told herself. "I'm not used to living this high up." That night, they slept on a shared mattress with the hum of the air purifier in the background. Hana woke once, to silence. No wind, no hum, no city noise. Only the distant ding of the elevator echoing through the walls. She turned toward Min-jae, but he was asleep. The digital clock blinked 3:11 a.m. She stared at it until she fell back asleep. The next morning, the air was clear. Sunlight streamed through the windows like nothing had ever happened. "Did you hear the elevator last night?" Hana asked over coffee. "No, but this place does creak weird sometimes. I thought I heard footsteps above us, but we're on the top floor, right?" She froze mid-sip. "No, we're not. There's a floor above. We're on 8. He frowned. "Right, must have mixed it up." Hana didn't mention the elevator again, or the fact that she couldn't shake the feeling that something was outside the door at 3:11 a.m., just standing there, waiting. That evening, Min-jae left to buy groceries. Hana stayed behind, arranging boxes, folding clothes, trying to make this place feel like home. She passed by the door and paused. The talisman pouch was gone. Her heart jolted. She scanned the floor. Nothing. She opened the door, half expecting it to be dropped in the hallway. But the hallway was empty. Too empty. The kind of stillness that doesn't belong in a residential building. The lights flickered once, then steadied. She shut the door and locked it twice. When Min-jae returned, she asked him, "Did you take the pouch off the door?" He blinked. "What pouch?" "The red thread one the guard gave us." "Oh yeah, I thought it was trash. I threw it with the box from the rice cooker." She stared at him. "You weren't supposed to remove it." "Babe, you don't actually believe in that stuff, do you?" She didn't answer. She couldn't explain why the air had felt wrong ever since, why the windows suddenly seemed too reflective, why she thought she saw a girl's face behind her own in the glass, just for a second. That night, she dreamed of an elevator shaft, endless, black, lined with phones ringing on every wall. Each phone had her name on it, and every one played the same whispering voice. "Don't let him leave." When she woke, the apartment was dark. The digital clock blinked again. 3:11. And from the living room, her phone buzzed. A missed call. No number. Just a dash. And a voicemail. She didn't listen. Not yet. It started again the next night.
Hana had forgotten the dream by morning, that strange image of the elevator shaft ringing with silent phones. But her phone hadn't. At 3:11 a.m., it had received a call. No number, no contact name, just a symbol. She stared at the log the next day, blinking sleep from her eyes. There it was, a call that lasted 11 seconds, and a voicemail. Her thumb hovered over the play button. Then she closed the app. Maybe it was spam. Maybe the tower was glitchy. She told herself this as she made breakfast, ignoring the slow creep of nausea building in her gut. Min-jae noticed. "You okay?" "I didn't sleep well," she said. "Nightmares." He kissed the top of her head and poured her coffee, oblivious to the growing tension in her shoulders, oblivious to the way she kept glancing at her phone like it might ring again at any moment. By the third night, the missed call came again. Same time, same number, same 11 seconds. She didn't answer, but this time the voicemail played by itself. She was in the bathroom brushing her teeth when it happened. The phone, left on the bed, began to speak. Static, soft, like wind crawling through wires. Then underneath, breathing. Not mechanical, not white noise. Real. And then a whisper, buried under distortion, but undeniably there. "Don't let him leave." Hana froze, toothbrush still in her mouth. She stepped back into the bedroom, eyes on the screen. The message had ended. The time, 3:12 a.m. She didn't sleep again that night. She watched Min-jae lie still beside her, his breath even, his face calm, untouched by whatever presence had seeped through the phone. At one point he stirred, rolled over, and murmured something in his sleep. She leaned closer. His lips parted. "She's still waiting for me." Her blood turned to ice. The next day, Hana asked him, casually, as they unpacked the last of their things, "Did you ever live in this building before?" He looked up surprised. "What? No. Are you sure?" "Yeah, I've been around this area, but why would you ask that?" She shrugged it off. "Déjà vu, I guess. I feel like some of this feels familiar." He laughed it off. "That's just the new apartment blues. Trust me, in a week, we'll be fighting over the best ramen place in the neighborhood, and this'll all feel normal." But it didn't feel normal. It felt watched. On the fifth night, Hana turned off her phone before bed, completely powered it down. She placed it inside a drawer in the kitchen, wrapped in a towel, like she could muffle something that wasn't sound. But at 3:11 a.m., she woke up anyway. There was a ringing, not from her phone, from the hallway. A distant, faintly metallic tone, echoing from the elevator shaft. She stepped out of the bedroom, barefoot, heart thudding. The living room was dark, bathed in blue from the city lights beyond the glass. The elevator bell sounded again. Ding! The hallway light under the door flickered. She moved closer, pressing her ear to the metal. Silence. Then, breathing. On the other side. Low. Human. Waiting. She backed away slowly, locked the door again even though it was already latched. In the morning, her phone was back on. She didn't remember turning it on, but the screen was lit, and there was another voicemail. This time it wasn't just breathing. There was a cry. Brief, pained, like someone sobbing just once before choking it back. Then the voice again. I waited for hours. You said you'd come down." Hana dropped the phone. It clattered across the floor. Min-jae picked it up minutes later and handed it back to her, asking nothing, saying nothing.
He looked tired now, pale under the eyes, moving slower in the mornings. "I keep waking up feeling like I didn't sleep. Do we have mold or something?" "No," Hannah said softly. "It's not mold." He frowned at her, but she didn't explain. She went to the lobby that afternoon. The guard was asleep in his chair, the security monitor looping silently above him. "Excuse me, sorry to bother you." He stirred, blinked blearily. "Yes?" "Can I ask you something about this building?" He looked more awake now, defensive. "What about it?" "Have there ever been incidents, like break-ins or weird phone calls? Someone ringing the elevator in the middle of the night?" He stared at her for a long moment. Then he sighed. "Which floor are you?" 8. His face changed, almost imperceptibly, like something behind his eyes dimmed. "Room 808? She nodded. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "That room should have stayed closed." "Why?" "There was a death. A few years back, girl in her 20s, fell into the elevator shaft. They said it was suicide, but what?" "She had her phone in her hand, still on the call log when they found her. Was calling someone in the building." "Who?" "No one knows. The records got lost. Management sealed the room, said it was under maintenance. But last year a couple of tenants moved in. They didn't last long." "Why?" "They started hearing things. One of them went missing. The other moved out in the middle of the night, left everything behind." The guard looked at her, his face serious now. "You should have kept the talisman." That night, Hannah played the voicemails again. All 3. The static, the whispering, the breath, the mournful sob, the final words. "Don't let him leave me again. Don't let him leave. He said he loved me." She didn't tell Minjae. Instead, she asked to sleep with the lights on. At 3:11 a.m., the lights turned off by themselves. Her phone lit up, buzzed. Once. She sat up slowly. Minjae was still. Too still. She reached for him. His skin was cold with sweat. Then from the front door, a sound. The door unlocking, clicking open, by itself. She moved, shaking Minjae awake, but he didn't stir. The apartment was freezing now. The window had fogged over with breath. The digital clock blinked. 3:12. Then a voice, soft and distant, from the hallway, not from a phone. "Why won't he come down?" In the morning, Minjae found the apartment door wide open. Nothing was missing, but on the floor, in front of the threshold, was a wet footprint. Bare, small, facing inward. The morning was pale and silent. No birds, no traffic. Just a low, humming quiet, like the apartment itself was holding its breath. Hannah sat alone at the table, a cold mug of coffee in her hands. Her phone lay beside her, screen blank, like it was pretending nothing had happened, like it hadn't opened on its own, played on its own, let her hear that voice. Minjae was in the bathroom, brushing his teeth in slow, mechanical strokes. He hadn't said much since finding the door open. He had simply stared at the footprint, then at her, then turned away without a word. Something had shifted. Later that day, while Minjae was out at work, a freelance meeting he couldn't cancel, Hannah sat on the couch, phone in hand. She told herself it was curiosity, that she just needed to understand it, to dismiss it. But deep down, she knew she was past the point of dismissal. The voicemail was still there. Same timestamp, 3:11 a.m. She hit play. The static was worse this time, louder, like wind tearing through wires. Then the breathing. Then, layered under the hiss, a voice clearer than before. A woman's voice, soft, broken. "You promised. You said you'd come back." Hannah's skin prickled. The voice wasn't robotic. It was real, recent, like it had been recorded inside the room. She played the message again, holding the phone to her ear this time. This time she listened past the whisper, to the silence underneath it. And in that silence, she heard something else. Not words, a melody, a lullaby, hummed, barely audible, tucked beneath the static. She didn't recognize the tune, but it chilled her. Something about it felt wrong, not childish, not soothing, more like a warning in disguise. She scrolled back through her call logs. There were now 5 missed calls, all from the same dash, all at 3:11 a.m., all with voicemails. The first one had been nothing but static, the second, the breath, the third, the whisper, and the fifth, the one from the night before, had ended with something new. She hadn't noticed it in the panic, but now she did. At the very end of the message, just before the click, a sharp sound, like a knuckle tapping glass. Once, twice, 3 times, from the inside. She dropped the phone. It slid across the wooden floor, bumping against the hallway wall, and then buzzed. New voicemail. Hannah stared at it for a full minute before crawling forward and picking it up. She didn't press play. Not yet. That evening, she asked Min-jae about his past, casually, carefully. He was chopping onions in the kitchen, looking more like himself again, but quieter, like something inside him was bruised. "Have you ever broken a promise to someone?" He looked up, startled. "What kind of question is that?" "Just curious." He hesitated. "Everyone breaks promises, that's part of being human." "To someone who loved you?" The knife paused mid-chop. Then he forced a smile. "This again?" "What do you mean?" "You've been asking weird questions ever since we moved in. You're not sleeping, you keep staring at your phone like it's haunted." She didn't laugh. Min-jae sighed. "If this is about my exes, Hannah, whatever happened before you and I met doesn't matter anymore." "But it matters to them," she said softly. "What?" She left the room. That night, she put in earphones and listened to the new voicemail. There was no static this time, just the woman's voice, clear, close. "I saw you. I saw you standing beside him, in the elevator, in my place." Hannah's mouth dried. The message continued. "He doesn't belong to you. He was mine first. He lied, and you let him." Click. She began locking her phone in the fridge at night. It didn't help. The call still came. At 3:11 she would wake, without knowing why, and find herself sitting up, listening. Sometimes the elevator dinged. Sometimes the bathroom light flicked on. Once she found herself standing at the door, hand on the knob, unsure how she had gotten there. The clock had read 3:12 a.m. She didn't remember walking. On the 7th night, Min-jae finally broke. They were lying in bed, staring at opposite walls, neither asleep, neither speaking, just existing. Then he said it. "I think someone is following me." Hannah turned to him slowly. "What do you mean?" "In the elevator. I keep seeing her, in the reflection." "Her?" "She looks like you, but not like a wet version of you. I know that sounds insane." She didn't speak. He continued. "She never talks, just stares, but last night she smiled. I didn't tell you, but 3 days ago I rode the elevator to the basement by accident. I didn't press anything. The doors closed and it went down on its own. The lights flickered, the screen glitched, and when it opened, there was no hallway, just concrete, and she was standing there." "Who?" Hannah whispered. "She looked like you, but she said one sentence. Just one." He turned to her, his voice hollow. "Don't let him leave." They didn't sleep after that. They sat on the living room floor, backs to the wall, watching the door. At 3:11, the phone buzzed. Then the elevator dinged. Neither moved. The voicemail icon appeared, then vanished. No message. Just silence. Just waiting. The elevator was no longer just a machine. It had become a presence, a silent observer, always waiting just beyond their door. Every creak of its cables, every soft ding in the dead of night felt like a breath or a summons. Hannah avoided it during the day. She took the stairs when she could, 8 flights of suffocating concrete, better than the cold steel box that now felt watched. But it was harder to avoid at night. The elevator existed even when unseen, in the sound of her phone vibrating, in the way the light flickered in the hall, in the mirrored reflections that no longer obeyed the rules of reality. Min-jae had stopped using it altogether. He paced the apartment more often now, muttering to himself, jumping at shadows. And every night at 3:11, his phone would buzz, just once, and he would delete the notification before Hannah could ask. They were unraveling, but the ghost was not. She was becoming clearer. That morning, Hannah opened the building's smart home app on her phone. It allowed tenants to access live hallway feeds, elevator cams, and building notifications, a sleek modern touch meant to offer safety. But safety had left the building days ago. She scrolled to the hallway feed outside their door. Nothing. Then she checked the elevator. At 3:11 a.m., the footage showed Min-jae leaving the apartment. He moved stiffly, barefoot, as though sleepwalking. He didn't look at the camera, just walked straight into the waiting elevator. The doors closed behind him. The next 30 seconds played like a dream. Min-jae stood alone, or so it seemed. But then, a shape flickered in the reflection behind him. A girl. No, not a girl. A woman. Hair drenched, pale face, eyes wide and vacant. She looked like Hannah, but not quite. Her mouth moved. The video had no audio, but the motion of her lips was deliberate. One sentence again and again. "Don't let him leave. Don't let him leave. He lied. He lied." Then she smiled, or at least her mouth stretched into something resembling a smile, too wide, too wrong, and vanished. When the elevator opened, Min-jae was gone. The feed cut out. The next frame was static. Hannah showed him the footage that night. Min-jae stared at the screen in silence. His hands trembled slightly. "That's not real," he said finally. "You walked into the elevator. I don't remember it." "And the girl?" He didn't answer. "Min-jae," she said softly. "Who is she?" He looked away. "I don't know." But his eyes said something else. Later that evening, Hana went back downstairs. The security guard was reading a tabloid behind the desk, one hand absent-mindedly massaging his temple. When she approached, he didn't look up. "I need to ask you something." "Oh, you again." "The woman who died here," she said. "What was her name?" His fingers froze. "She was found in the elevator shaft, right?" He slowly lifted his head. His face was blank, but his eyes were haunted. "She fell," he said. "No," Hana said. "She was chasing someone." He didn't deny it. "What was her name?" The guard stared at her for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then, reluctantly, he said, "Shin Yuri." The name hit Hana like a soft slap. Not loud, but it stung. "She lived on the 11th floor," he continued. 2 years ago. Nice girl, quiet, worked long hours, always carried her phone like it was a lifeline." "What happened?" He hesitated. "They said she jumped, but there were rumors. She was dating someone in the building, got pregnant. He left her, moved out overnight. She tried to stop him, took the elevator alone. The next morning, she was found between floors, crushed. The elevator had glitched. Her phone was still on a call when they pulled her out." "To who?" He didn't answer, but Hana already knew. Back upstairs, she opened Min-jae's contact list. He had dozens of entries, clients, friends, numbers she recognized. But one stood out. No name, just a number with no country code. Buried deep, never dialed recently. Except, she clicked the call history. It had been called at 3:11 a.m. every night. Min-jae didn't deny it when she confronted him. He sat at the edge of the bed, staring at his hands like they didn't belong to him. "I didn't call her, I swear, Hana. I didn't, not consciously. But you did know her." His silence was answer enough. "How long?" she asked. Min-jae looked up at her with eyes that held 1,000 ghosts. 3 years ago, we dated. It wasn't serious. But it was enough to destroy her?" His voice cracked. She was intense, clingy. She said she loved me after 2 months, said we wanted to move in, said we were soulmates. I panicked. "So you ghosted her?" "I knocked her, changed my number, moved out without telling her. I didn't mean to hurt her, You erased her." His face crumpled. "I didn't know she died until last month. When we signed the lease, the address looked familiar, but I didn't connect it until I saw the elevator, the hallway. It came back like a flood." Hana stepped back, her stomach turning. "She's not haunting the building," she whispered. "She's haunting you." Min-jae's voice was small, childlike. "She said she'd wait for me. She said if I ever left her, she'd follow me through the wires." That night, Hana heard the voice again, but this time it didn't come from her phone. It came from the walls. Whispers, low and rhythmic, like someone singing through teeth. She pressed her ear to the plaster. "Don't let him leave. Don't let him leave. He lied. He lied." A sudden, loud knock exploded from the other side. Hana screamed and fell backward. Min-jae didn't even flinch. He was already staring at the window. His reflection was staring back. But it wasn't his own face. It was hers. Yuri's. The talisman had been gone for a week. Thrown away on the first day, tied with red thread, warm in Hana's hand, now probably buried beneath banana peels and cardboard in the basement dumpster. Discarded like superstition. like memory. But it had meant something, and she was only just beginning to understand what. After the confession, Min-jae barely spoke. He moved through the apartment like a ghost of himself, silent, pale, waking often at night, drenched in sweat. He refused to ride the elevator now, refused to answer unknown calls, refused to say her name. But Hana had to know more. She needed answers. She needed to understand what was inside their home. She went to find the old janitor. He was in the boiler room, an ancient yellow-lit cavern beneath the building, walls stained with time, the smell of rust and mold thick in the air. His name was Mr. Yang, and his back was bent from decades of silent work, but his eyes were sharp, ancient, like they had seen things most men never would. "You're from 808, he said without needing to be told. Hana nodded. "You threw away the charm." It wasn't a question. "I didn't know what it was," she said. "It wasn't for you to know, it was for her." He turned and pulled a dusty box from the corner, setting it on a rusted table. Inside were dozens of small velvet pouches, just like the one they'd been given, all tied with red string. After the girl died, the building changed. Things started moving, doors opening, lights turning off, calls in the middle of the night from disconnected numbers. But it was only ever around one place, room 808. So I went to a mudang. "A shaman," she whispered. He nodded. "She told me the spirit wasn't finished, that she had died wrong, broken-hearted, betrayed. A spirit like that doesn't fade. It lingers. It wraps itself around the place of loss, around the moment it died." "And the charm?" she asked. "She said it would hold the threshold, seal the door from within. Red string for anger, salt for cleansing, ash from the funeral of a woman who died loved, to balance the one who died unloved." She stared at the box. So many pouches. "How many times has room 808 been rented?" "Too many." He looked at her now, not unkindly. "She doesn't haunt the living. She reaches through them. She's looking for the man who left her. And if she can't find him, she finds anyone who resembles the one who took her place." Hana went cold. "She thinks I'm her," she whispered. Mr. Jiang nodded. "She always does." That night, Hana placed a new pouch, one of the spares from the box, on the doorknob. The red thread looked darker this time, as though it had been used. The air inside the apartment shifted as soon as it hung there. Not calmer, just aware, like the walls were watching. She did more research. In Korean folklore, spirits who die by betrayal or heartbreak become won-hon, restless ghosts. But if the betrayal was intentional, cruel, and final, the spirit becomes something else entirely. A jasun saya, a reaper spirit, whose job is not just to mourn, but to collect. They don't haunt out of grief. They haunt out of duty. They cling to routine, memory, the exact time of their death. They repeat it, trap others inside it, recreate it until someone finally sees what they endured. 3:11 a.m. wasn't random. It was the exact moment Shin Yuri fell between the floors. The elevator had been in motion. One tenant said they heard it stutter, stop, then the sound of something dragging inside the shaft, screaming, then silence. When they found her, she was crushed, her face unrecognizable, but her phone was still in her hand, and the screen had one last outgoing call, to room 808. That night, Hana couldn't sleep. She sat by the window while Min-jae tossed in bed, his breath ragged, his skin soaked in sweat. He whispered in his dreams now, always the same. "She's still in the shaft. She keeps calling. She won't stop. The red thread on the door began to vibrate. Hana stood slowly, walked toward it, and listened. On the other side, footsteps. Bare, wet. Then a knock. 3 times. She didn't open the door, but she watched the lock slowly slide open on its own. In the morning, the red thread was gone again. Min-jae had started forgetting things, little things at first, where he placed his keys, what day it was, his own phone passcode. But then bigger things, his mother's name, the date of their wedding, even his job. "She's in my head," he said one night, curled up in the shower with the water running cold. "She keeps showing me things that didn't happen, or maybe they did, I don't know anymore." Hana knelt beside him, arms around his trembling form. "What does she want?" she asked. He didn't answer, but Hana knew. She wanted her place back. The building was no longer quiet. It groaned, it sighed, and every night at exactly 3:11 a.m., the elevator stopped on their floor, even when no one called it. On the 10th night, the intercom buzzed, not from the lobby, from inside the building. Hana pressed the receiver. Silence. Then a soft whisper. "I'm coming up." The digital clock blinked silently beside the bed. 3:10 a.m. Hana was already awake. She had learned the pattern by now, how the air thickened at 3:09, how the temperature dropped by 3:10, and how precisely at 3:11 the apartment would come alive, but not with light, with memory, with presence. She didn't sleep anymore, not really. Instead, she waited. 3:11 a.m. The lights flickered off. The phone lit up on the dresser, screen bright against the dark. The voicemail icon pulsed once. Then the elevator dinged. Hana rose from the bed without looking at Min-jae. She already knew he wouldn't wake. He never did. He had become part of the ritual now, part of her routine. In the hallway, the door handle turned slowly on its own. It didn't open, not yet, but it was unlocked. The talisman was gone again, not torn, not dropped, simply gone, like it had never been tied there at all. From the other side of the door, she heard soft breathing. Then 3 knocks, steady, familiar, almost polite. Hana didn't open the door, but she turned toward the wall and pressed her phone against it. The voicemail played automatically. This time, the message was different. The static was gone. Only a voice. Elevator. Going down. Then a sound, a mechanical lurch, metal dragging over metal, a woman's scream, and then crushing silence. She turned back to Min-jae, but he was gone. The bed was empty, sheets rumpled, no sound. Her breath caught. She ran into the hallway, heart hammering, just as the elevator doors closed at the end of the corridor. "Min-jae!" She sprinted barefoot down the hall, slamming the elevator button. The screen above the doors showed a single number. No floor. Just a symbol. The elevator wasn't going up or down. It was repeating. She opened the smart home app again, the elevator feed, and watched the live footage. Min-jae stood alone inside, swaying slightly. His eyes were open but glazed, like he was underwater. And behind him, not a reflection, but a figure. She wasn't visible at first, just a shimmer in the air, then a shadow, then Yuri. Wet hair, pale skin, a bruise-like blush beneath her eyes, lips curled into something between sorrow and rage. She stood beside him and touched his hand. Min-jae didn't flinch. He didn't even blink. He was listening. Hana hit the emergency override on the panel. Nothing. She tried calling the front desk. The phone only rang. She ran to the stairwell and raced down, 8 floors in bare feet, lungs burning, until she reached the basement. The elevator doors were open, but the elevator wasn't there. Only a black shaft, deep and endless, smelling of cold metal and rain. A phone rang in the darkness from below. Min-jae's voice echoed faintly, distorted by concrete. "I'm sorry. I didn't know she'd jump." Then the shaft filled with static. She screamed his name into the void. No answer. Just the sound of breathing. And the whisper, "She left me. She left me again." Then, without warning, the elevator rose from the depths. The lights buzzed as it reached the basement floor. When the doors opened, Min-jae stood inside, alone, dripping wet. He stepped out, his face blank. Hana wrapped her arms around him, shaking, sobbing, asking what had happened, but he didn't respond. He looked past her, through her, and whispered, "She said she still loves me." They didn't speak for 2 days. Min-jae wandered from room to room, sometimes forgetting where he was. Once, Hana found him standing in the bathroom, facing the mirror, smiling faintly at his reflection. But it wasn't his own reflection smiling back. She tried calling his mother. No answer. She tried a priest. He didn't return her messages. Then, out of desperation, she found the number to a modern shaman, someone trained in spiritual technology, energy cleansing, and ghost rituals adapted for high-rise life. The woman's voice over the phone was calm, cold. 3:11 a.m., the shaman repeated. That's the moment she died. She keeps calling, even when the phone is off. Because it's not your phone she's using. It's him. What do you mean? She's not trapped in this world. She's trapped in his memory, and she's rewriting it, pulling him into the loop where he left her behind. Hana swallowed. Can we break it? The shaman was silent. Then, only if he's willing to go back into it, fully, and face her. That night, the phone rang again, 3:11 a.m. But this time, when Hana answered, it wasn't static. It was Min-jae's voice. But not now Min-jae. Younger, lighter, laughing. "Yuri, I can't do this anymore. You're too much. I need space. I'm moving out tomorrow." A pause. "Don't call me again." Click. Then silence. Hana dropped the phone. It didn't fall. It hovered, just for a second, suspended in midair as if something held it from below. Then it dropped, shattered on the floor. When she looked down at the screen, it was no longer showing her wallpaper. It was showing a text message from her own number. Room 808. Bring him back, or I'll take you instead. Yuri had once been real. That was the most terrifying realization of all. She wasn't just a shadow in the reflection, not a vague, tragic tale passed between tenants and whispers. She had lived here, walked these halls, held someone's hand, laughed in these rooms, and she had died waiting. Hana went to the district office the next day, claiming she was conducting personal research for a documentary. She gave Yuri's name, Shin Yori, and waited as the clerk typed with slow fingers and suspicious eyes. 11th floor, Mirei Heights, the woman said eventually, scrolling. Lived here until, August, 3 years ago. Cause of death? The clerk glanced at her. I'm sorry, that's restricted information. Please, Hana whispered. She died in my building. I need to know. The clerk looked again at the screen. Her voice softened. It says, accidental fall into an elevator shaft, but there's a note. A note? She was holding her phone, still connected to a call when she was found, to an unlisted number registered in the same building. Hana's breath caught. Room 808? I'm not allowed to say. That was answer enough. She didn't go home immediately. Instead, she searched public forums, community boards, tenant complaints, archived blog posts from the building. People remembered Yuri. They described her as quiet, always polite, thin, tired-looking, often seen in the lobby, tapping nervously at her phone. Neighbors recalled hearing crying from her unit. Some claimed she talked to herself in the elevator. One person wrote, she waited for someone who never came. Every night she called him, and one day she stopped calling. That's when the elevator stopped working. Another wrote, there was a rumor that she was pregnant when she died, that she called him to tell him, and he never picked up. That rumor clung to Hana like fog. She returned home that evening with shaking hands and a question lodged in her chest. Min-jae, she said, standing at the foot of the bed. Was she pregnant? He didn't answer at first. He just stared at the window. Then he said, barely audible, I think so. That broke something inside her. You think? I never asked. She said she missed her period, that she was scared. I told her I wasn't ready to be a father, that we needed to slow down. And then I blocked her. His voice cracked. She begged me. She kept calling. I couldn't handle it, so I ghosted her. I changed my number, moved out. I thought she'd move on. She didn't. I know. Min-jae's eyes brimmed with tears. I didn't mean to kill her, Hana. But you did. That night, Hana stood alone in the living room, watching the lights of the city blink in silence. She thought about Yuri standing here, alone, rejected, possibly pregnant, calling and calling and calling, and no one answering. At 3:11 a.m., the phone buzzed, but it wasn't hers. It was Min-jae's. Hana picked it up with trembling hands. The call wasn't from a dash anymore. It had a name now. Yuri. The photo was blank, just a black circle, but her name was there. Hana answered. No static, no whispering. Just one long exhaled breath. Then, you're living in my place. The line went dead. Min-jae didn't sleep that night. He lay on the floor, muttering apologies to the ceiling. Hana couldn't bring herself to comfort him, not when Yuri was still in the walls. The next day, Hana received a text from an unknown number. She's still in the elevator. That was it. No signature, no explanation. But when Hana checked the building's smart home app, the elevator camera showed something strange. a frozen frame, the doors half closed, and inside, barely visible, a silhouette. A woman's figure, head bowed, phone in her hand. She never left. Later that evening, Hannah returned to Mr. Yang. She was pregnant, wasn't she? He nodded. They didn't put it in the report, but people knew. She told the guard before you, said she needed to talk to someone, that she was scared, and then she just disappeared. They found her body at the bottom of the shaft, crushed. But here's what they don't tell you. Hannah braced herself. She wasn't supposed to be there. The elevator didn't malfunction. The security log showed it was on the 10th floor, but somehow she fell between floors, like she was waiting in the dark, not trying to go anywhere, just trying to stop someone from leaving. She was waiting for him. Yes. And she died chasing him? Yes. Back in the apartment, Hannah found a note in the pocket of Min-jae's coat. A torn page from an old planner. The edges were smudged. In Yuri's handwriting, he had confirmed it, were 3 words. You were mine. That night, the elevator didn't just ding. It opened, even though no one had called it. And from inside, the hallway lights flickered. Hannah stood at the far end of the hall, watching. She didn't move, but she heard footsteps. Wet, bare, approaching. Then a whisper at her ear. I remember how it felt to fall. She turned. No one was there. But when she looked back down the hall, the elevator was empty again. But the doors were closing, and for just a second, she saw a girl standing inside, drenched, staring back at her. Not angry, not even sad, just waiting. It began with a mirror. Hannah stood brushing her hair in the bathroom one evening when she noticed it. The reflection moved slightly out of sync, just a blink too slow. Her own face stared back, but something was off. The eyes too wide, the skin too pale, the mouth not quite smiling, yet not frowning either. And behind her, in the mirror, a shadow, faint, female, standing just outside the door. When she turned, no one was there. Later that night, Min-jae whispered in his sleep again. He did that now, every night. But this time, it wasn't an apology, it was a name. Yuri. And then softer. I loved you first. I just couldn't choose you. Hannah sat up in the dark. She didn't wake him. She didn't say a word. But she felt it. A presence in the room, between them. And in her chest, a knot forming, twisted from something she hadn't let herself feel until now. Jealousy. The next morning, she opened the hallway camera feed. She had stopped checking it regularly. The dread was too much. But today, she had to know. The elevator feed was active. Timestamp, 3:11 a.m. There was Min-jae, again, standing alone, in sleepwear, his eyes open but not awake. But this time, Hannah saw something new. The elevator mirrored walls clearly showed 2 people, Min-jae and her. Not Yuri, Hannah, or someone who looked exactly like Hannah but older, wet, pale, wearing a torn version of Hannah's nightgown. She was staring at him, and he was reaching for her. Hana slammed the phone down, nausea rising. This wasn't a haunting, this was a replacement. That day, Hana confronted Mr. Jang again. "She's mimicking me," she said, "taking my face, wearing my clothes." The old janitor's expression grew grave. "She did the same to another tenant once, a woman who moved in with her boyfriend after the accident. The girl's reflection began showing up in mirrors, looking just like her." "What happened?" "She started losing time, talking to herself, thinking her boyfriend was cheating. He left her. She moved out alone." "Was it Yuri?" "Spirits like hers, they don't forget. But worse, they don't forgive. They replay." He stepped closer. "You live in her space, sleep in her bed, share his name." "She thinks I'm the woman he left her for?" Mr. Jang nodded. "Not thinks, knows." That night, Min-jae found a photo on his phone he didn't remember taking. It was of Hana, or what he thought was Hana, standing in the kitchen, head tilted, face turned away, wearing a dress Hana didn't own. She was blurry, but the timestamp was clear. 3:11 a.m. The next morning, Hana woke to find all her clothes from the wardrobe soaked, not damp, drenched, like they had been submerged in water. And at the bottom of the closet, a note written in black ink. "He loved me first." She began to unravel. Every mirror reflected something slightly wrong. Her smile didn't match. Her eyes blinked out of order. Once, brushing her teeth, she saw herself watching from behind, her double, grinning, then gone. One evening, Min-jae burst into the room, his face white with panic. "I saw you in the elevator," he gasped. "I followed you, but—" "I wasn't there," Hana said coldly. "I saw your face. It wasn't me." They stared at each other in silence. And between them, something shifted. Not just fear now, doubt. Min-jae stepped back. Hana stepped forward. "Do you still love her?" she asked, voice shaking. "I don't know anymore," he whispered. And in that moment, the lights went out. The apartment went dead, silent, still. Then the intercom buzzed, not from the front desk, from inside. Hana answered, only breathing. And then, "You were the second woman. You took my place. You don't get to stay." The elevator dinged. Min-jae rushed to the door, but Hana blocked him. "She wants you to follow her." "I have to end this," he said. "You'll never come back." But he was already unlocking the door. The hallway was dark. The elevator stood open. Inside, a woman. Hair drenched, dress soaked. She looked just like Hana, except her eyes were all wrong. Empty. Min-jae stepped forward. The doors closed. Hana screamed, but she was already gone. 10 minutes passed, then 20. No return. She opened the app. The feed was blank, not static, just black. And her own reflection stared back from the screen. Mouth moving, but she hadn't spoken. The shaman's office was not what Hana expected. There were no incense sticks, no bells, no blood-red candles or talismans painted in gold. just a clean, sterile space on the 10th floor of a modern glass building downtown. Fluorescent lights, potted plants, a single folding table, and a woman in her 40s wearing an oversized black hoodie and typing on a laptop. But her eyes were ancient. "You're from room 808? She asked, before Hannah had said a word. Hannah froze. "Yes?" The woman nodded without looking up. "She's been louder lately." Her name was Cho Eun-bi, but clients called her the Wi-Fi Mudang, a tech-era shaman for the modern spiritual age. She had built a reputation for treating hauntings that manifested through elevators, phones, digital devices, and security systems. Spirits don't need bodies to move. They move through memory, through repetition, through loops. And your ghost? She died in one. She calls every night, at 3:11, sometimes through the phone, sometimes through the building, sometimes in my voice. That's because she's no longer calling. She's echoing. Eun-bi reached into a drawer and placed 3 items on the table. A folded sheet of paper with black calligraphy ink, a plastic case containing red thread and a needle, and a sealed vial of ash. She's what we call a Jung-hun, a spirit that dies with unresolved love, betrayal, and final awareness of abandonment. That kind of death doesn't release the soul. It traps it, looping the moment over and over until someone completes it. How do I stop it? You don't. Hannah's hands trembled. Then why am I here? Eun-bi looked at her. Because you might survive what she wants. She explained the ritual like it was a surgery, precise, timed, and dangerous. You need to ride the elevator at 3:11 a.m., alone. Carry something of hers, something connected to the moment of death. Then you have to stay inside as it loops. It will not stop, not until she appears. Hannah's throat tightened. And when she does? You must let her finish what she began. She began by falling. Exactly. Eun-bi gave her a charm, a talisman drawn on fabric dipped in river ash. You'll sew this into your shirt with the red thread. It won't stop her, but it will make you visible to her, not as a stranger, but as the witness, the one who saw her die, the one who can remember her correctly. She thinks I'm the woman who replaced her. No, she knows you're not. That's why she hates you more. Hannah left the building with the vial packed in her coat. On the subway ride home, her phone rang again. 3:11 p.m., a full 12 hours early. She answered. No voice, just a hum, a heartbeat, then a whisper. I didn't want to die. Back at Moriah Heights, the hallway felt different, heavier. The elevator waited, silent, polished, harmless. But inside, nothing had changed. Min-jae was still missing. The smart app showed no movement. Room 808's lights flickered when she entered. The mirrors showed her face with tiny distortions, a tilt of the head that didn't match her posture, a smile that came too late. And in the center of the bed, her phone. Already lit. Voicemail, one new message. She played it. Yuri's voice. He never came back for me. Maybe you will. At midnight, Hannah began preparing. She sewed the talisman into the lining of her shirt using the red thread until her fingers ached. She braided a strand of her own hair and tied it around her wrist, a ritual the shaman said would keep her memory from being overwritten. And she placed one thing in her pocket, Yuri's last text message, printed from Minjae's old phone. "Please, just come down. I don't want to do this." It had never been read. 2:59 a.m. She stood barefoot in front of the elevator, alone. The hallway was silent. The building slept. 3 o'clock. 3:05. The fluorescent lights above her buzzed softly. Then, 3:11 a.m. The elevator dinged, and the doors opened. Inside, it was colder than outside. Too cold. She stepped in. The panel glitched, numbers blinking rapidly. 6, 8, 11. Then it stopped on 8. The doors didn't close. Hana waited. The lights flickered. Then the voice came. "You're here, but he's not." And the elevator fell. Not violently, not fast, but slowly, drifting down like a memory sinking. The numbers blinked erratically. 10, 8, then stopped. The doors opened to nothing. Concrete, walls, darkness. And there she was, Yuri, standing just outside the elevator shaft. She looked like Hana. She looked like everyone who had ever left her. And her voice was no longer a whisper. "You watched him leave me, and you said nothing." Hana stepped forward, shaking. "I'm not her." Yuri tilted her head. "Then be her." And she reached forward and touched Hana's face. It was cold, but beneath the cold, grief, raw, bottomless, a grief that never found a home. The elevator shuddered. Yuri stepped inside, stood beside Hana. They both looked forward as the doors closed. Then the screen blinked. 3:11, 3:11, 3:11. And Yuri whispered, "Show me how it ended." The elevator doors closed. Hana stood beside Yuri, or what was left of her. She didn't speak. Neither of them did. But Hana could hear it. Not sound, not words. Memory. It poured through the walls like water through cracks. A warm summer night, a phone buzzing with no answer, the hum of a broken heart breaking further, again and again. The panel blinked. 11, 10, 8, 11, 6. Each number glowing briefly before disappearing, looping like a broken clock. The elevator was moving, but it was not going anywhere. It was sinking, not down, but back. Back into Yuri's last night. The lights dimmed, the air thickened, and the walls began to change. Where there had been metal, now there were mirrors, endless panes reflecting both women from all angles. But Hana's reflections didn't match her. They blinked late, tilted their heads the wrong way, mouthed words she hadn't spoken. Yuri's reflections, however, were perfect, aligned, unified. She was no longer a ghost here. She was the host. "Where are we going?" Hana whispered. Yuri didn't turn her head. She just replied, "Where I was left." The elevator jerked, then stopped. The doors opened, not into a hallway, but into a memory. It was Yuri's apartment, not in ruins, not abandoned, but alive, lit by warm lamps, dishes in the sink, a coat thrown over a chair. And on the couch, Yuri, smiling, holding a phone, hope shining in her eyes like dawn. Min-jae's voice echoed from the phone. "I just need space, okay? I'm not ready for all this." Yuri's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't hang up. "I'm pregnant. Please, don't go." Silence. Click. And the world ripped open. The memory shattered like glass, pieces floating in midair as the elevator jerked again and dragged them downward. Hana fell to her knees, clutching the railing, breath stolen from her lungs. Yuri remained standing, composed, empty. Another stop. Another door opened. This time, room 808. The night Min-jae moved in. The same rug, same white boxes, same walls freshly painted. And on the other side of the hallway, Yuri, holding her phone, calling him one last time. She watched him carry a suitcase inside, laughing with someone else whose face was blurred, as if the memory refused to see her clearly. But it wasn't blurred for Hana. It was her. Yuri looked at Hana now, not with hatred, not even grief, but with confirmation. "You were always her, even if you weren't." The door slammed shut, and they were falling again. The mirrors returned, this time flooded. Water trickled from the ceiling, ran down the glass in slow, steady sheets. The floor was wet, the smell of mildew and metal thick in Hana's nose. The red thread around her wrist began to tighten, burning. Her voice cracked. "Why are you showing me this?" Yuri's voice was calm. "So you know what it means to be left, and still wait, and still hope, until you break." Another stop. This time, the shaft. No floor, no hallway, just the open, black mouth of the elevator pit, and the sound of a phone ringing, again and again. Yuri stepped forward, but instead of falling, she turned. Her eyes were different now. They were full of memory, of pain, of fury, and of decision. "You followed me in. Now you have to choose." "Choose what?" "Stay or trade." The elevator groaned. The lights sparked. Hana fell backward as the floor beneath her shifted, metal replaced by cold concrete. Her hand landed on something hard, a phone, buzzing. 3:11 a.m., Yuri's name on the screen. And beside it, a picture. Min-jae, sitting in the elevator, alone, head down, waiting. Yuri knelt. "You love him, don't you?" "Yes," Hana whispered. "He left me, I know. He let me die, I know." Yuri reached out, touched Hana's chest. The cold burned. "You can take him back, walk out of this elevator, pretend none of this happened." Her voice grew soft. "Or you can stay, let me go, and take my place in the loop." Hana trembled. The phone buzzed again. 3:11 a.m., incoming call. Min-jae's voice whispered from the speaker. "I'm sorry. I never came down. I should have. I'm sorry." Tears blurred Hana's eyes. "Why me? Why not him?" Yuri stood. "Because ghosts don't need the ones who broke them. We need the ones who might still understand." The elevator shook violently now. The mirrors cracked. The lights burst one by one. Yuri stepped backward, toward the darkness. Her final words lingered. "You saw me. You listened. That's enough." And she let go. The elevator plummeted, but Hana didn't fall. She floated, weightless in sorrow, bathed in silence, surrounded by everything Yuri had felt. Then, stillness. The elevator doors opened to room 808. Min-jae on the floor, crying, alive, and Hana holding the phone. She had returned, but something had stayed behind. Min-jae didn't speak for a long time. After Hana stepped out of the elevator, dazed, soaked, half missing, she found him curled up on the floor of room 808. The lights were off, the curtains closed. The air smelled faintly of metal and burnt dust. He was alive, but not whole. She called his name. He didn't look up. An hour passed. Then 2. The clock blinked 5:11 a.m. Hana sat beside him in silence, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. Her skin still chilled from the other side, from the loop, from Yuri. Finally, he whispered, "You went in, didn't you?" She nodded. He nodded too, then said, "Then you saw what I did." The confession came in pieces, disjointed at first, like the truth had rusted from disuse. I met her at a job I hated. Customer service, long hours, no respect. Yuri was the only reason I stayed that long. She was funny, kind. She made lunch for both of us, told me stories about ghosts in her childhood home. I laughed at them. He paused. She wanted everything too fast, wanted me to move in, marry her, have a kid. I wasn't ready. I told her I loved her, but I was just saying it back, to keep the peace, to keep her close, because I liked feeling wanted. His voice cracked. That was the worst part. I didn't love her. I just loved how much she loved me. He stared at the window as he spoke, like he couldn't look at Hana, like he didn't deserve to. She told me she was pregnant, he said. It was raining that day. She stood in the lobby crying, asking me not to go, but I had already signed a lease somewhere else, room 808. I was going to live with someone new. He shook his head. She begged me to come down, said she wanted to talk, one more conversation, just one. Hana knew what came next, but she let him say it. I blocked her, never picked up. I went upstairs. I turned off my phone. His eyes were hollow now. She died chasing me. Silence filled the room, a silence so deep it buzzed in the ears. Then Hana whispered, "And you never told anyone." Min-jae nodded. I wanted to forget. You moved on. I tried. He swallowed, but the elevator wouldn't let me. He told her about the first dream, a year after Yuri's death, waking up in a pitch-black elevator, floating between floors, hearing her voice call his name. Then came the missed calls, the static voicemails, and the wet footprints on clean tile. At first he thought it was grief, guilt, but guilt doesn't speak in her voice. Guilt doesn't show up in photos that never existed. I thought if I ignored it long enough, it would go away. It didn't. It found you. He turned to Hana now, really looked at her. You didn't deserve any of this. No, she said quietly, but neither did she. That was the moment he broke. Tears spilled from his eyes, not the sharp cries of panic, but the deep, aching sobs of someone who had run out of ways to lie to himself. I didn't kill her with a knife, but I killed her with silence, with that locked elevator, with every "I love you" I didn't mean. He shook. She begged me to come down, and I never did. They sat in that room for hours. Hana never reached out to comfort him. She wasn't sure who he was anymore, and maybe he wasn't either. The next day, Min-jae refused to leave the apartment. He unplugged the phone, covered the mirrors, nailed the closets shut. He spoke less, ate little, slept in bursts, always waking up gasping for air, whispering, "She's still there, still waiting, Hana tried to help, but she was unraveling too. The loop hadn't broken, it had simply shifted. One night, she woke to find him standing in the bathroom, speaking into the mirror. But the reflection wasn't his, it was hers, Yuri, and she was smiling.
Hannah had never lit a ritual candle before, not the kind that burned with black smoke and hissed like it was trying to whisper. She had never drawn symbols in salt or written names on paper in her own blood. But that night, after everything, she did all of it, because there was no one else left to do it, and because the ghost was no longer outside the door, she was inside the walls. Ming-jae had stopped speaking. He sat by the window all day, whispering to someone no one could see. Sometimes he smiled, sometimes he wept, but mostly he repeated one sentence. She never stopped calling. Hannah called Eunbi again, the shaman. "I went into the loop," she said. "I saw it all." "And?" "She let me go." "She only lets you go," Eunbi replied, "if she wants you to bring someone else back." "I think she's done haunting." "No, she's just waiting." "For what?" "For him." Eunbi explained the final ritual. Not to banish Yuri, not to cleanse her, but to bring her out into a place where she could face Min-jae and he could finally speak the truth she never got to hear. "It must happen in the elevator," she said. "That's where her death lives. That's where the final door never closed." Hannah wrote everything down, then burned the paper. The preparation began at midnight. The hallway outside room 808 was silent, but the elevator lights were flickering again, floor numbers blinking at random. A soft ding every few minutes, even though no one called it. Hannah laid salt in a circle on the elevator floor, drew binding marks with red ink at each corner, placed Min-jae's old phone in the center, set to play Yuri's final voicemail, the one she left just minutes before her death. And then she tied the doors shut with a strand of red thread soaked in river ash. A seal not to trap the ghost, but to hold reality in place. She brought Min-jae into the hallway at 3:07 a.m. He didn't protest. His eyes were wide, glassy, his steps slow. He was no longer resisting, just moving forward like a man walking back into the house he burned down. 3:10 a.m. The elevator opened on its own. The salt glowed faintly in the fluorescent light. The red thread trembled on the doors. Ming-jae stepped in without hesitation, and Hannah whispered, "Tell her the truth," then closed the doors. Inside, the elevator lights dimmed. The panel glitched. Floor numbers vanished. Only one symbol remained. Min-jae stood in the center, the phone in his hand, playing the voicemail. "I'm waiting downstairs. Please don't leave yet. I just want to talk." The voice broke halfway through. And then she appeared. Not in the reflection, not in the corner, but directly across from him. Yuri. Whole, beautiful, dead. Her face showed nothing, not rage, not sadness, just the hollow stillness of someone who waited too long. Min-jae did not look away. His hands trembled, his lips parted, and for the first time since she died, he said, "I should have answered." Yuri blinked. "I was scared. I thought if I ran, it would all disappear, but it didn't. You didn't." The elevator began to descend, slow, creaking. "You loved me more than I deserved, and I left you in the dark. I'm sorry." He dropped to his knees. "I'm sorry." Yuri stepped forward. The elevator shook. The lights flared. She reached out and placed her hand on his shoulder. Min-jae flinched, but did not move.
Then Yuri said for the first time, "I wasn't calling for revenge." He looked up. "I was scared." Outside, Hana watched the red thread ignite on its own. The symbols drawn in salt glowed red. The smart home app on her phone blinked. Camera feeds all black, except one. The elevator feed. She tapped it. For a moment, the screen showed nothing. Then, Min-jae, kneeling. Yuri, standing above him, her hand on his heart. Then she smiled, soft, real, and turned to face the camera. For the first time, she looked at Hana and mouthed, "Thank you." The lights went out. The elevator shook, and the doors burst open. Min-jae fell forward, gasping. Hana rushed in, pulling him out. No sign of Yuri, only the lingering scent of rain. Back in the apartment, Hana made tea with shaking hands. Min-jae sat in silence, then whispered, "She let me go." Hana did not reply. She looked at the clock. 3:15 a.m. The first time in weeks they had passed 3:11 without a call. Outside the apartment, the elevator lights stopped flickering, and for the first time since they moved in, room 808 was silent. The silence was strange, too clean. After weeks of whispers, knocks, and nightly calls, the stillness inside room 808 felt almost wrong, like a sudden lull in the middle of a storm. Min-jae slept through the night. No mumbling, no midnight pacing, no calling her name. He simply slept. And Hana lay beside him with her eyes open, waiting for the ding of the elevator. But it never came. In the morning, sunlight spilled through the windows, warm, golden, real. The building outside bustled with life again. Deliveries, neighbors, dogs barking. It was as if the past month had been a fever dream that finally broke. But dreams didn't leave voicemail logs, and nightmares didn't leave water stains that wouldn't dry. They decided to move out. It wasn't discussed, it didn't need to be. They packed slowly, wordlessly, folding clothes in silence, unplugging appliances, pulling red thread from cracks in the walls. Hana found the talisman again, the original one, the one they had thrown away on the first day. It was sitting in the bottom of the hallway closet, dried and intact, the red thread still tightly knotted, as if it had never left. She didn't touch it. The building manager met them in the lobby the morning they left. He was polite, curious. "No trouble in the unit, I hope?" he asked, eyes flicking to the key in Hana's hand. She hesitated, then smiled. "No, everything was quiet." He nodded. "Lucky, that floor has had its share of problems." She handed him the key. "What happens to the apartment now?" The manager shrugged. "We'll clean it, list it again. Rent's too good not to." Hana's smile faded slightly. "And someone else will move in?" "That's how it goes." They walked out together. 2 suitcases, a bag of clothes, no photos, no souvenirs, just distance. That night, Hana lay in a new bed, in a new building, in a room with white walls and no mirrors. She opened her phone one last time, scrolled to the voicemail archive. The calls were still there, from the dash number, all at 3:11 a.m. She deleted them, each one by one, until there were none left. She thought it would bring peace. It didn't, because deletion isn't erasure, not with ghosts. 3 weeks later, the building manager opened room 808 for a new tenant, a young couple, engaged, quiet. He handed them the key and a packet of paperwork and said, almost without thinking, "Don't forget to hang the pouch on the door, just tradition." They laughed politely. Later that night, they tossed it into the trash. At 3:11 a.m., the lights in the elevator flickered. The camera feed stuttered, and the floor numbers began to loop again. 8, 11, 8. Then the elevator dinged, but no one had called it. Inside room 808, the smart home panel activated by itself. A message blinked on the screen. New voicemail. From timestamp 3:11 a.m. The screen glowed quietly in the dark, waiting. Hannah never planned to come back, but some places stay with you, not because you remember them, but because they remember you. 6 months had passed. A new apartment, new job, new city. Min-jae had begun to smile again, cautiously. He took long walks, drank tea instead of coffee, kept the curtains open. He didn't say her name anymore, not even in his sleep. But Hannah could still feel it, the echo, a gentle tap on the glass of her new life. Sometimes, at 3:11 a.m., she would wake for no reason and listen, just to be sure. One cloudy afternoon, she received a call from an unknown number, not a dash, a real number, Seoul area code. She answered. "Hannah?" the voice said. "It's Mr. Jang, the old janitor." Her heart skipped. "I just thought you should know," he said slowly. "Room 808 is occupied again." "Already?" He sighed. "Couple moved in last month. Nice kids. She looks a bit like you." The silence between them was heavy. "She's been hearing things," he added. "Calls, dreams, elevator acting strange again." Hannah closed her eyes. "Do they know?" "I left the talisman, told them it was tradition." "And?" He gave a hollow chuckle. "You know how people are." That night, Hannah found herself back in the neighborhood. She didn't mean to go. She was walking, wandering, and the city seemed to pull her back, street by street, until there it was, Mireille Heights. Just as gray, just as still. The lobby looked smaller now, or maybe she had grown. The guard desk was empty, but the elevator was open, waiting. She stepped in, alone. The lights flickered once, then steadied. The panel lit up. She didn't press anything, but it moved anyway. 8, 9, 10, 11. The doors opened. The hallway was unchanged. Same faded wallpaper, same flickering light above room 808. She stood at the far end, staring. A soft breeze slipped under the door. She turned to leave, but the elevator had already closed behind her, and down the hallway, the door creaked open. She didn't want to go inside, but she did. The air was stale, boxes half unpacked, shoes by the door, curtains drawn. No one home, except the elevator app panel blinking quietly on the wall. One new voicemail, from timestamp 3:11 a.m. Her hand hovered over the button and pressed play. At first, static, then breathing, then a soft voice. "He left me. You let him, but you came back." Click. A sound behind her. She turned. A mirror by the hallway. In the reflection, not herself. Yuri, just watching. Not angry, not sad, just there, waiting. She stepped back into the hallway and saw the elevator open again. Inside, the floor glowed with the faint outline of salt, long swept away. The panel blinked, and a voice whispered from inside, "Come down with me." She didn't move, not yet, but she looked down at her phone, 3:11 a.m., and the screen lit up. Incoming call. From... She answered, breathing, then, "There's always someone in the elevator, even when you can't see them." The doors closed, the elevator began to descend, and the light above room 808 flickered again.